Hey friends, welcome back to Lifestyle School. Today I want to have a conversation that's maybe a little uncomfortable, but in the best way. It's about challenge, it's about discomfort, and it's about doing things that stress us and force us to grow. Because here is the truth. Doing hard things on purpose, especially the kind of hard that no one else sees or celebrates, is one of the most powerful ways to rewire our brain for confidence, for courage, and for resilience. And it's how you grow your capacity as a human being. And let's be real, we all need this. So, we live in a culture that is obsessed with comfort, with convenience, ease, instant gratification. But those things don't make us strong. They don't make us capable. They don't make us resilient. What they do is they actually make us fragile. And so today I want to unpack four powerful brain-based reasons why choosing challenge is one of the best things you can do for your mental health, for your metabolic health, your mood, and truly your life and your health journey. So these aren't just motivational ideas. These are actually backed by neuroscience. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about neuroplasticity, how your brain physically rewires through effort. We're going to talk about the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's resilience command center. We're going to talk a little bit about the dopamine system, how to retrain motivation and rewire for long-term growth. And then we're going to talk about stress inoculation, which this is really big, and the science of getting stronger through controlled challenge. So I'm going to give you some real tools to walk away with today so you can start training resilience right now, wherever you are at on your health journey. And so before we dive into it though, a quick reminder, quick disclaimer, I should say, I am not a medical doctor, and this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your doctor before making any big health changes. So, with that, guys, let's get into it. So, let's start with the big idea, right? Your brain changes based on what you do repeatedly. I'm going to say that again because I think this is a really good thing, that a really big thing that we need to grasp and take really seriously, is that our brain changes based on what we do repeatedly. And this can be a really positive thing. It can also be really negative. And so what that is neuroplasticity. Your brain is not fixed. It's constantly adapting, creating new connections, new neural pathways, pruning old ones, and it's strengthening the pathways that you use the most. So every single time you do something hard, even in a small way, you are laying down new wiring. You're telling your brain, this is who I am now, and I show up when it's uncomfortable or when I feel uncomfortable. That is who I am. So if you're trying to become someone who follows through, whether that's on your diet plan, your exercise plan, maybe it's in your commitments to yourself, maybe it's in your relationships. If you're trying to become someone who follows through, someone who doesn't quit, someone who feels grounded and focused, you don't want to wait until you feel like that person, because you become that person by doing the hard things now. I want to say that again. You don't want to wait, and you don't need to wait to feel like you're becoming that person who shows up for themselves. You become that person by doing hard things right now. So here's like a real life example. Think about, learning how to fast. Maybe the first time you tried, your brain panicked a little bit. I know for me, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, if I don't eat every 2 hours, I am going to die of starvation. It's really the mindset that I had, just let's see here, 6, 7 short years ago. Because I was used to eating every 2 to 3 hours, but over time, my body adapted and so did my mind. And, I started to learn that hunger wasn't an emergency, and that I could feel that discomfort and not react to it. And that is neuroplasticity in action. That is my brain laying down new wiring. Another example of this is, if you wake up every morning and you scroll on your phone in bed, I know I am guilty of this in some seasons of my life. You probably are too. But if you wake up every morning, you start scrolling on your phone in bed, your brain wires itself for distraction and passivity. But if instead you sit up, you drink your water right away, you take a breath, you do one small thing that's hard, like maybe that's getting right up and putting your workout clothes on, going outside and running around the block. I did that actually for 6 months. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have probably seen it in my stories, but January 1st, I decided, well, it was a couple different things, but I just needed a fresh start. And I knew I needed to like get small wins at the beginning of my day for success. Honestly, it was like this. It's where this podcast came from, and it was this in action. But I knew I needed to both get up and do something challenging to start my day to get that rewiring happening. And then also, I knew that my cardiovascular health was not where it needed to be. I have always just really hated cardio. I hate running, not my jam. But I knew it was like this part of my health that I really needed to focus on because, even just because I don't like it doesn't mean I can neglect it, right? I want to be a well-rounded, healthy person. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start my days by I'm just gonna like wake up right away and I'm gonna go run half a mile around the block. And I did that. I did it almost every single Monday through Friday for 6 months. I've recently stopped for a number of different physical reasons. But let me tell you, I could feel my brain to be rewired for action through doing that. And I could see a trickle down effect on not only did it start my day with that action, with that win, but it gets into the dopamine, which we'll get into later in this podcast. But it helped me feel like, wow, like if I can wake up and if I can run for 5 minutes to start my day, I'm really capable of doing anything. And so I want to encourage you as like a tool, just start with a 2-minute challenge every morning. Before you check your phone, do 2 minutes of something that challenges you. So maybe that is movement. Maybe it's just like sitting in silence and doing some deep breathing. Maybe it's writing down some intentions for the day. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water. But if you do that every day for 7 days, that consistency is what teaches your brain a new pattern. And you're going to be just incredibly excited about how quickly you can start to see the trickle down effect of these small habits. And so I want you to know that, you're not stuck where you are. You just need some rewiring of your brain. And so how we can do this, though, is we have to choose actions that match the future you are trying to create for yourself, not the past that you're trying to escape. And I can tell you this, waking up, or I should say maybe snoozing your alarm clock for an hour, looking at your phone on social media first thing when you wake up, that's probably not in line with the future that you want for yourself. And so we have to think about these things because all of these actions that we choose are rewiring our brain, whether that's for good or for to the detriment of our health goals. Now, I want to talk about a lesser known part of the brain, and I have to credit Andrew Huberman for talking about this on a podcast. And I was like, okay, this is really cool stuff. But it's called the anterior cingulate cortex. I am always worried about mispronouncing words on here, but it's also known as the ACC, and that is how I will refer to it. Moving forward, the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. This is a part of our brain that detects conflict, like the gap between what you want and what's actually happening. It's responsible for regulating emotions, staying focused under stress, and adapting to change. So I don't know about you, but regulating emotions, staying focused under stress, and adapting to change are three really important things that I want to, you know, I want to figure out how to maximize. Sorry, I got distracted, you guys. I got a text message from my neighbor in the middle of recording this, and someone's trying to get a hold of me. Okay. Anyway, back to uh, our topic. Sorry, I need to get back to my notes because I'm distracting myself all over the place. But so, regulated emotions, staying focused under stress, adapting and change, those are all really important functions that we need our brain to be good at. And so, when you do hard things, especially things that trigger emotional discomfort, the ACC lights up and it says, okay, this is hard, but let's stay with it. And when you don't give in to the urge to escape or shut down, the ACC actually grows and gets stronger. And what this means is you become better at staying grounded and focused when life gets messy. And let's be real, life likes to get messy. I've been coaching people for about 10 years, personal training, nutrition coaching, health coaching, and there's never like a good time to get healthy. There's never a good time to focus on your health journey because life always inevitably gets in the way. There's like always something, whether it's hard times that have come or stressful times or just like busyness, vacations, events, there's always something that gets in the way. So let's say you have a tough conversation coming up with your partner, your boss, or maybe even your doctor, and every part of your body wants to avoid it. And you feel your chest tighten, your mind spins a little bit. I don't know about you, but I've definitely been there before a hard conversation. But when you choose to show up calmly, to speak the truth, even when your voice feels shaky, your ACC is there helping you regulate through the stress. And the more you do it, the more resilient it becomes. And like a micro example of this would be sitting in silence for 5 minutes without checking your phone. I don't know about you, but that can be really hard. And that's training your ACC because it's not the silence that's hard, it's the discomfort of being with your thoughts. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but like we never just like sit and like fold our hands and don't do anything. We're always grabbing our phone, swiping through social media, through our emails, doing something, texting someone. There's just something that's really beautiful about growing and being able to sit in silence and the discomfort of just sitting with our thoughts. And personally, that is something that I've been working on. And so, a tool for you to work on growing your ACC is try a daily pause and stay practice. And when you feel a moment of tension, maybe you want to grab a snack out of boredom, maybe you are trying to avoid a workout, or you're wanting to interrupt, some sort of bad habit pattern, just pause for 10 seconds, breathe, and ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? And, what do I really need? And what this does is it helps build the emotional muscles of awareness and of control. And that is going to help rewire your brain and grow your ACC. Because emotional resilience isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about training your brain to stay present with discomfort and choosing a wise response anyway. And I want to now kind of transition and talk about dopamine, the dopamine system. I did a whole podcast on dopamine. It's a really interesting chemical. You guys, I think if you haven't already, if you could, after this episode, go back and listen to that because you won't regret having a better understanding of dopamine. So if you haven't already, go check out that episode. If I knew the number that it was off the top of my head, I'd tell you, but I did not write that down. So let's keep moving on. Dopamine. We often think of dopamine as the feel-good chemical, but it's actually the motivation molecule. So we think of it as a feel-good chemical, but it's actually more of a motivation molecule. And we really dive into that in that other episode that I was referring to. So it's what drives us to pursue goals and feel satisfied by progress. And here's the catch. In today's world, dopamine is hijacked. And that's because ultra-processed food, things like social media, online shopping, all of these things create instant dopamine hits with no real effort. And what that does is it rewires our brain to chase ease and not necessarily growth. And when you earn your dopamine through doing something challenging, your brain gets rewired to associate effort with satisfaction. And that's when everything really starts to change. And that's when you start looking forward to doing things like going to the gym, to doing your fast because you feel so good. You get that dopamine reward. To those, you look forward to having those tough conversations because your brain starts to see those things as meaningful and not as miserable. And so just imagine, you're finishing a workout that you didn't want to do. You did it anyway. You're sweaty, you're tired, but you feel really proud. That sense of I did it anyway, that's earned dopamine. And compare that to, the fleeting high of scrolling on your Instagram or maybe eating a donut. One of these actions builds capacity and the other one numbs it. And I'm sure if you think back to, these experiences in real life, you'd be like, yes, I've totally felt that before. And one thing that I do want to say too, that I think is really interesting about dopamine is, we talk on here a lot about like blood sugar regulation and how we don't want to be on the blood sugar roller coaster where we're eating foods that peak our blood sugar really high. And then, what goes up must come down. And so then we have these blood sugar crashes. And then it usually leads to eating something that spikes our blood sugar again. And then we're on the blood sugar roller coaster all day. There is such thing as the dopamine roller coaster. And I've learned more about this recently. And I think it's really interesting in my dopamine podcast that's dedicated to dopamine. I reference Dr. Anne Lemke's book, Dopamine Nation, quite a bit, which I think is a very fascinating read. I think everyone should read it. But we can be on a dopamine roller coaster where we do these things to get these like quick dopamine hits, whether that's eating something that's like ultra processed food or scrolling on social media. And we get these dopamine highs, but then what goes up must come down. We end up with these dopamine lows and it, sets us on this hamster wheel of chasing these dopamine hits, as I like to refer to them, rather than when you earn dopamine through doing something hard. It is like a slow, gradual build. It's like the rolling hills. So you get a slow, gradual build, and then you don't get a crash afterward. And it just leaves you feeling more mentally satisfied. Just like when you have stabilized blood sugar, your energy's better, your mood's better, everything is better when we're not going on these like highs and lows of everything all the time. So a tool to really start implementing this, set one dopamine earning goal each day, something small but effortful and, sticking. It could be something like sticking to your food plan. It could be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water every day. It could be making your bed right away when you get up in the morning. I know for me, for like the majority of my life, probably the first guys, I hate to say it, 30 years of my life, I never made my bed. But then I got in this habit of making my bed and I was just surprised by how much better it made me feel. So it could be something just like making your bed. It could be turning off your phone at 8 p.m., could be doing 10 push-ups before bed, or maybe not before bed, maybe right when you wake up in the morning. I know for me, a lot of exercise before bed wakes me up. And that's not what we want to do before bed, but the key is not how big it is, it's that you earn it and that it's a little hard. And over your time, your brain is going to start craving to earn those wins. And that is going to help you on every step of your journey along the way for this health journey, because I hate to break it to you, your health journey is hard and it's never over. It's, really is over when we die. And, there is going to be bumps along the way, unfortunately. But if we can build up this resilience, if we can build up these habits of being okay with doing hard things or facing challenges, every day is going to get easier and easier because we're rewiring our brain. So I want you to know your motivation isn't broken. It's just been trained the wrong way, been trained on the wrong things. And you can retrain it by choosing challenge over comfort, but it is a choice and you have to choose it. And it's not easy, it's uncomfortable, but it is so worth it in the end. And finally, I want to talk about something that's really powerful. And I think So important. The more coaching I do, the more important I find this piece of the puzzle. But that is stress inoculation when it comes to, doing these hard things. This process of gradually exposing yourself to stress in safe, controlled ways. So your nervous system can learn that stress is not danger necessarily, and that you become stronger and not more fragile. So just like lifting weights makes your muscles stronger by kind of tearing them down, getting these micro tears and then repairing them. That's how our muscles get stronger. Facing manageable stress builds our window of tolerance, and your capacity to stay calm and functional even when life gets really hard. And so, if there's an example of this would be is if every time you feel anxious, you distract yourself with like food or screens or busyness, you're teaching your nervous system that discomfort is unsafe. And, if you sit with, this uncomfortable feeling with anxiety, if you breathe through it, if you journal it, or if you move your body gently through it, what you're doing is you're teaching yourself that you can handle it and that you are safe and that is truly how you stretch your window of tolerance. And, we could go on and on and on about this and stress inoculation. And, this is a tool that I have used with clients in my coaching because honestly, some of us are not good at handling stress or, we unfortunately stress ourselves out. And so purposefully challenging ourselves, in controlled ways, exposing our nervous system to stress and then breathing through it and moving through it in a way that is safe, that is controlled, that is going to build our stress tolerance. And that is such an incredibly important tool as we move through life. And this is why, things like workouts matter. This is why things like fasting matters, why cold exposure matters. They're not just physical challenges, they're nervous system training. You can think of them as like a workout for your nervous system. You're telling your body we can do hard things. And most importantly, we are safe doing them. And so a tool for you is to start with one form of controlled challenge this week. Maybe it's 60 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. Maybe it's fasting an extra hour. Maybe it's saying no to someone when you would normally say yes out of guilt. This is actually a big one. Like creating a boundary or not overcommitting yourself. The goal is to intentionally lean in and breathe through this response and then feel how good it feels to get to the other side and have built a little bit more of that stress tolerance. And the more you do it, the easier it will get. Think about it as like building a wall. It's, you're just laying brick after brick and like these small things add up over time. And before you know it, you're going to have this like big, beautiful wall of stress resilience that you've built. And so I want to say this, you don't get stronger by avoiding stress. Stress is a part of life. Unfortunately, we can't avoid it. You get stronger by training your system to navigate it with wisdom and with calm. And so I want to invite you, as we wrap up this episode, do one thing this week that's hard and do it not because you want to punish yourself, not because, you think you're broken, but because challenge is how you train for the life that you really want. And doing hard things teaches your brain, it teaches your body and your spirit that you are capable and that you can trust yourself and that you can handle more than you thought. And if you can do that, that changes absolutely everything. So if this episode resonated with you, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And I'd love for you to share it with someone who you think could benefit. I'd love for you to leave a comment. Repost to your social media with what you thought, screenshot the episode, tag me at Hope Coaching on Instagram, and tell me what is the hard thing that you're choosing to do this week. And if you want help creating a lifestyle where resilience is your default and growth is your norm, join us in Lifestyle School. This is the work we do together. And I want to say thank you so much for being here. Get out there this week, go do something hard, and we'll see you next time on the Lifestyle School podcast.